Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast, brought to you by Chestnut Health Systems. I'm your host, Charles Epstein. Today's topic is problem-solving courts. And joining me to discuss this is the Honorable Shannon R. Dougherty, a circuit judge for Division 6 of the 23rd Judicial Circuit in Jefferson County, Missouri. Judge Dougherty handles civil and family court cases and manages local treatment dockets, starting as a probation and parole officer, then working as an assistant prosecuting attorney, and most recently as a judge. She has been involved in the Missouri legal system for over 27 years. And joining us is Lori Epley, who serves as the Director of Project Access at Chestnut Health Systems. Lori recently oversaw operations tied to the expansion of a Chestnut Health Systems clinic in Hillsborough, Missouri, targeted to help individuals interacting with local courts, probation, and children's division agencies. Judge Dougherty, Lori, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Delighted that you can both join me to discuss this very important topic. So, Judge, if you would start us off, for our listeners, what are problem-solving courts?
Well, yes, and I have to just premise this with, there's a lot to say, so I'm going to try to get it in a nutshell. So problem-solving courts are dealing with people who are justice involved. So that means that they have a court case, which is what gives me jurisdiction over their case. And so for a lot of our treatment courts, they have a criminal case. But we also have family courts that have a juvenile case with it. And so they agree to come to our program, and we have a structure that's pretty similar in all of the different treatment courts. And so they have to go to treatment and drug testing and see their probation officer multiple times each week. They're doing all the activities. And when they successfully complete the program, they will either, if it's a family court, be getting their children back into their home and closing that juvenile case in the near future. Or if it's a criminal case, there's different things that can happen with their criminal case, but it's usually a better disposition than if they had not gone through treatment court.
Very good. Thank you. Judge Dougherty, advocates often say participants deserve, quote, help, not handcuffs. What do you say to people who hold the opposing view?
I oftentimes speak in the community, and this is something that I do like to educate everyone about. And it's that treatment courts are a big commitment for anyone who agrees to go into that program. And so they are being monitored very closely. They're being drug tested constantly. And so there is a lot of oversight there. And then what you're allowing to happen is for these participants to remain in the community, so they're not incarcerated. And once they get to a certain stage in the program, they're required to have a full-time job. And so they're paying taxes. They are able to have a family, build their life. We have a lot of people in our programs who are working on their credit scores so that they can buy a car or they can buy a home. And you're saving taxpayer money because it's less costly to have them go through one of our treatment courts than it is to be incarcerated. And another really great thing is that we have a lot of babies who are born drug-free to mothers who are in our programs. And one recent statistic is we had over 1,200 babies born in that year that were not drug addicted.
Hardly the easy way out. How does your day-to-day judicial approach in a drug court differ from a traditional criminal docket?
Treatment courts involve a team of professionals who staff the court staff each case each week. And so on those teams, we have a probation officer, we have a law enforcement official, we have a prosecuting attorney, we have treatment court administrator, me, the judge. If it's a family court case, we have a deputy juvenile officer and a case manager. And so as a team, we have a staffing without the participants present, and we review the case, and we see what's working for them, what's not working, and we throw out different strategies to see if there's anything we could do to help that person be successful. And so because I get to know so much information about that individual, I don't have their criminal case outside of treatment court. So a regular criminal docket would have a judge just dealing with the person when they're pleading guilty or there's a trial or they're on probation, and they don't get as much information that I get. When I am overseeing a treatment court case, I know a lot of personal information about that person and their struggles.
Lori, I know you think I forgot about you, but this question goes to you. Research highlights that supportive services like housing and employment are essential to participant success. Tell us about your partnership with Judge Dougherty's court.
So Chestnut has partnered with the treatment court for probably about 6 years since we started our program down here in Missouri. And we have a clinician that is specifically assigned to treatment court clients. So that clinician is very well versed in the treatment court requirements and what the expectations are, the phases that the clients will go through. So they are very educated on that, and they become part of that team that Judge Dougherty was just mentioning. And by becoming part of that team, they can work collaboratively with the other professionals to provide suggestions on therapeutic approaches that might be beneficial to that person. While maintaining confidentiality from the client, they still are able to offer suggestions and celebrate successes, but also speak to therapeutically what might be a good sanction or intervention or system like treatment adjustment that could benefit that client. And then we also have peer support specialists that walk alongside those clients while they're in treatment court who have that lived experience, and they offer support and guidance, and they also help with basic needs, making sure that they have transportation, that they have help filling out a resume, and getting to a job interview, those kinds of things. So I think our agency works really closely and well with the treatment team to make sure the clients have a well supported environment for them.
Yeah, so obviously measuring success in the program goes well beyond just reducing recidivism.
Yes, I would definitely say that we're not just looking at the criminal aspect of that, because if you help someone build a strong base where they have a job to get up and go to every day, they're caring for their children, they're able to start affording things like a car to help them get to their places, and they're maintaining that and paying their bills, that is all building a strong base for them to go forward and continue to advance in their life with their goals and their accomplishments.
I wasn't expecting to ask you this, but in the 6 years since you've been collaborating on this, I asked you if people who hold opposing views vis-a-vis this help, not handcuffs approach. And I don't know if you've polled this at all, but can you say that over that time you've changed minds?
Yes, and part of it is the work that we do, but also part of it is the work that everyone else does and trying to educate the public. When I first started doing treatment courts almost 20 years ago, there was more of a stigma to people who were suffering with a substance use disorder. And, it was some people thought, oh, that would never happen, in their family or in their friend group. And then as we've gone through time, we realize that this is something that can strike any family or any friend group. And so I think that is one thing that is causing people to kind of open their eyes and realize that this is an epidemic. And then also, I think when people are, learning about our approach to it, that we balance helping the individual through their sobriety and recovery. We are also promoting public safety by having them report to court activities multiple times a week and to calling a drug testing line every single day, even weekends and holidays, to see if they have to test. That we're trying to do our part to make sure that they're working on the recovery in a safe way for themselves and the community.
Great. That question gets a little bit into the weeds, and I'd like the both of you to weigh in on this. When a participant struggles or relapses, how does the court balance accountability with continued support? And what role does the multidisciplinary team, treatment providers, case managers, prosecutors, and defense counsel play in those decisions? Lori, maybe you can take that first.
Sure. I think Judge Dougherty has a really challenging role because she is the final decision maker in what sanction may be posed to these individuals, but she does a great job listening to her team and taking in differing opinions to try to figure out what the best way to address whatever issue has come up for this individual. And I think the team works really well. And as treatment providers, our approach is more therapeutic and trying to identify what may have been lacking in the recovery program and how can we strengthen that for them, and to work together with Judge Dougherty and the other team members to make sure that there's no safety issues for the community, but also making sure that we're looking at this individual and taking into account case by case, what might be most helpful for them.
Yeah, Judge, I'd like to ask you that too. I asked you earlier in this conversation how your day-to-day judicial approach in a drug court differ from a traditional criminal docket. It seems to me that one of the major differences is that here you have a lot more people weighing in, a lot more perspectives to balance.
And that is accurate. And I agree with what Lori said. It's always hard when we have someone who violates a program rule, but those rules are there for a reason. And so we look at it as it's an opportunity to help that person learn from this. And so the approach we take is, we talk about it as a team without the participant present. And everybody, states their opinion. We discuss things. But ultimately and ethically, I am required to make that final decision. But certainly, I do have a lot more people voicing their opinion than I would in a regular court proceeding. And the way that we then go forward with that participant is we implement a sanction, which can be a variety of things. But we often also have a therapeutic response. Like, does this person need to have more individual sessions? Do they need to go to more self-help support group meetings? What do we need to do to help this person be successful and to learn from this? And then we also encourage that participant not to give up, but to keep moving forward and learning from this.
When somebody's before you, I'm assuming not everybody in a final analysis, in your view, in your judgment, ought to be eligible for this kind of program.
Yes, that is correct. So we have a screening process that we go through. If it's a criminal-based case, we're working with the prosecutor's office. If it's a juvenile family case, we're dealing with the juvenile office. And so one of the big things that we're doing when we're screening them is we're getting information about their use and what brought them here, but also other things like, do you have reliable transportation? Because you have to get to a lot of different treatment court activities every week. And where we are is in Jefferson County, Missouri, there is not very much transportation available. Like there's really not, a bus service or anything like that. There aren't taxis. And so we want to make sure that we're not going to set them up to fail by have them come into a program that they can't get to any of the requirements.
Yeah, you actually anticipated my next question, which is what are the primary funding or policy hurdles to expanding these dockets? And I'm assuming transportation is one of them. What are the others?
So yes, transportation definitely is one of those. I believe too that educating people about our programs, because there's a lot of information out there that's not completely accurate. And so if people understand that we're trying to help you stay in recovery or get to recovery and stay in recovery for the rest of your life, we're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on a problem right now to get you through this particular case that you have with the courts. And so there are a lot of people who come to us and they let us know that they are ready for change. They don't want to, do the back and forth with being, trying to be, off of drugs and then getting back to it. And so educating is important for the participants, but also for the attorneys in our courts, because sometimes they don't have the correct information either, and we could have a service that could really help their client. Another issue that we have is sometimes it's hard to get all our team members because we're asking for different professionals to leave their regular duties and come spend a good chunk of their week in our treatment courts. And so it can be difficult to have a defense attorney on your team, because if you say, hey, we need you for, these hours every week, but they have to, have their business and bill their hours, it's kind of hard to do that because it's a voluntary position that we have for them.
Last question, I'm going to ask for the both of you this. Looking ahead, what innovations or changes, whether in treatment approaches, technology, or interagency collaboration, do you believe would most strengthen problem-solving courts in the coming years? Lori, your thoughts on that?
I think I would echo what Judge Dougherty just was talking about as far as educating and reducing the misinformation that's out there about treatment courts, specifically with the attorneys and other individuals that might be involved, as far as the prosecutor, the defense attorneys, and things like that, to make sure that they understand that this program is challenging and is hard, but it is life-changing. And that education is challenging for us to do, but we do have a group that meets quarterly, and we get together and we talk about some of these things and how we can work together as different agencies and as a team to encourage people to participate in the programs that we have, all the different treatment court programs. And also, one thing that Judge Dougherty has really been hoping for, and we've been talking about a little bit more, is a treatment court center, so that individuals have one place to go and they can get all of the services that they need there at one time. So that would be groups, individual, peer support, transportation, hopefully to and from what they need to go to, computers so that they can look for jobs and fill out resumes, but they would have case managers so that would support them in that. So that is something I know Judge Dougherty has been talking about for a long time, and we've been talking about more recently, and hopefully we can figure out a way to make that happen.
Great. Anything to add to that, Judge Dougherty?
The treatment court center is a dream of mine, and I am not giving up on that. I think that our Hillsborough is our county seat, and it's where the jail is. It's where the courts are. Chestnut has an office there. Other partners that we have are in Hillsborough. Drug testing is in Hillsborough. And if we had a place that helped a lot of the services be in one area, it would be so great for our participants, because they could just get dropped off in Hillsborough, or if they get released from jail, walk to the center and have most of their services there. And it would, I think, also relieve a lot of stress of trying to get rides to get to different places.
How widespread are these courts across the country?
So I do have some numbers, but they're only for Missouri. But there is a national drug court organization that, I know that treatment courts are across the U.S. Here in Missouri, in 2024, we had approximately 6,000 active treatment court participants. They ranged in age from 17 to 75 years old at the time of admission. By the end of 2024, we had nearly 28,600 successful treatment court graduates. Now, I think that might be over time from when the courts first started. But we have these courts all across Missouri, and there's different courts. There's adult treatment court, there's mental health courts, there's juvenile treatment courts, family treatment courts, veterans treatment courts, and DWI courts. So it is something that is encouraged by the courts and by treatment people all around.
I have to say, before we started recording, Judge, you said you've never done a podcast before, but you're a natural. I think you have a parallel career.
It's good to know I have a backup.
Indeed. I really do appreciate your time that the both of you spent with me today. This is really very enlightening and a really important topic. So thanks so much. Today, I spoke with the Honorable Shannon Dougherty, a circuit judge for Division 6 of the 23rd Judicial Circuit in Jefferson County, Missouri, and Lori Epley, who serves as the Director of Project Access at Chestnut Health Systems. This has been the Catalyst Podcast brought to you by Chestnut Health Systems. For more, visit www.chestnut.org. Thank you for listening.